Hello friends, SentinalhMC here. Welcome back to our ChromatiCraft tutorial series. In this episode, we're going to talk about something very important to ChromatiCraft. We're going to talk about Lumen Repeaters. Right here. Lumen Repeaters, crystal repeaters. We're going to make them. We're going to talk about the progression that you need to get to the crystal ones. And we're going to check it out and see what happens. So if you remember, I had a couple of repeaters over here just for fun so that we could get the green power from the Kijani pylon to come over here to our crystal orchestra. Now, repeaters are something that you're going to need. They're extremely important because when you get to higher level crafting, which we're getting closer to, then you need to get the lumen energy actually into your casting table, and you've seen that on the Revolution Let's Play. You've seen that Shiva casting certain things, and you've seen that energy coming around. If I hold shift on this, you can actually see there's like a green, it shows like a green repeater thing showing up there. I don't know if that might mean that this relay here, this pylon, is actually close enough to this temple to actually reach, because these have a 48 block effective distance transmission range that they can go through. So 48 blocks away from this, it'll actually reach. So who knows? Maybe the green can actually reach our little casting table here. But under most circumstances, you will not have pylons probably this close to your casting room temple at this point, and you certainly won't have one of every single one nearby enough to do that. So you need to use the repeaters to get the signal further out. Now, the first one that you'll gain access to is this one. It's called the it's called Lumen Repeater. It's over here under Energy and Elements. There's actually 2 pages for this, or no, in the book that you end up with. I don't know if it's 2 separate info fragments, but it is 2 separate sections. You've got the actual block, the Lumen Repeater block up here, and then if we go to the bottom, down here, we can find the Energy and Elements, and this is the Lumen Repeater entry, which actually shows you how to build them. Now, it's extremely easy to build these because it's just wood. You just put wood underneath. That's it. Any kind of wood. So that's easy enough. For the crystal repeater ones, it's a bit more, there's a couple more blocks involved, and you actually have to use the specific rune for the color that you're after. But we're going to start with this first one because you have to make at least one of these. In order to get the progression necessary to build the better ones, you have to do this one first, right? This lumen harnessing one. In order to get that, you have to have done weak magical foci, which is the runes, and you also need to have done energy beacons, obviously. That makes perfect sense to me. Anyway, once you have completed lumen harnessing, you unlock lumen overload. Now, you need to unlock lumen overload in order to acquire, if you look, there's a little green line right here that's going down to broadcasting. Okay, so broadcasting is going over to, all the way over to here, to a less than honorable attempt, but it's also got a connection right here to lumen overload. So you need to do this before you can get broadcasting, and you need broadcasting before you can get the crystal repeaters. And in order to get broadcasting, you also need magic alloying. We'll talk about this in the next episode probably. So let's go into lumen harnessing. Let's take a look at these lumen repeaters. So to craft it, quite simply, is some wood, four planks, 2 sticks, a bucket of liquid chroma, some transmissive dust, and glowstone dust. If you don't remember, transmissive dust is the one that comes from radiance bushes, which you can find growing on sand. So let's go ahead and shove everything in here. You do not need this sort of casting room setup. It's just a basic casting recipe that just requires the table. Throw that in there. Liquid chroma bucket. Now we need to put in the runes. Now the rune setup is a bit complex. It's quite a few runes, and they're quite different locations. So we need these Tahara runes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the so the 5th block diagonal from the casting table. These are all at y-1. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the left and the right are the Kuro runes. So we'll grab Tahara. And I thought I had a Kuro rune here, but I do not. So we'll go ahead and grab one. Where is it? Kuro. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 puts us over here. So this needs to be Kuro. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Kuro. Tahara needs to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in the upper left corner. Tahara. And then we'll go down here. And we'll also place in a Tahara. Now, just down 2 and to the left 1 is a Katrino, and up 2 to the right 3 is Nilla. Now, I think we might already have that. Yep, there's Katrino, and our Nilla rune is directly underneath there. So, we now have all the runes in place. We can craft ourselves some Lumen Repeaters. It's cool. I like it. So, we've got our Lumen Repeater, and as you can see, you do not lose your bucket. It just empties the chroma, but you keep the bucket. Now that we have some Lumen Repeaters, we can go ahead and place them. Now let's take a look in the book, and we'll see their stats, because if you're going to use these for anything, you need to know the transmission range. So the pylon has a range of 48 blocks, and this has a reception range of 24 and a transmission range of 16. So the Lumen Repeater can transmit a signal up to 16 meters. Okay? 16 blocks. Cool. So, let's go ahead and we'll place a couple of these down just for fun. I'm not going to count it out and get these exactly as far away as they need to be. This thing can transmit 48 blocks, so we can be pretty far from it. But let's count it out. So this is 1, but I don't know about the distance orthogonally straight across. Sure, but I don't know if the verticality actually affects it or not. Maybe it does. But at any rate, we should be well within our 48 blocks if we just like go over here. Especially since I can still see the green particles on my screen. Now, if you place down a one of these and you sort of look at it, it puts these like dotted lines coming out from it, and I think that's to help you know if you're connected or not. If I go over here to the pylon, yeah, it doesn't do it. If I place one, if I start placing wood even, you can see these dotted lines coming out from this over to here. If I place that down, we can see that these dotted lines connect. So it's letting me know that these are connecting. I mean, these are way closer together than they need to be, obviously. And now the pylon, if you look at it, it's got dotted lines. It's connecting here as well. So these are connecting up, so there'd be no problem there. If I look at this square, it shows me that both of those would connect to it. Whereas if I look at this square, we can see only one of them can connect to it. But we see that it is connected right there. See that? So you can sort of use this to know, okay, about how far away you can have them, which appears to be right around here. Yeah, so that's connected there. And then we could use that, of course, to like come all the way back to our place and get the string of repeaters from the pylon to whatever we need it to be, so that we can make use of the pylon's color energy. Now here's the thing. These are crap. These Lumen Repeaters are pieces of junk. Don't use them. They're not good. There's a reason that Lumen Overload is a node on your progression tree. If I go ahead and place a large power draw on this, you'll see exactly what happens. So to do that, I'm going to use this storage crystal charger, which we'll talk about in a future video. Basically, all you need to know is that this thing stores crystal energy, so it's going to put a strong enough draw on this to screw it all up. So I'll place that down. It's probably blocked, and you can see now that they have lit on fire, and you hear this sound, and you see all these sparks, and then they explode. Alright? That's because we tried to pull too much power through them, and they exploded. and no power actually made it inside of this charger. So yeah, that's not good. But you have to do that at least once. You got to blow one up in order to get that progression. Now, once you've blown one up, that's when you'll get the Lumen Overload. Yeah, they work except when they explode. So once you get Lumen Overload, you could go ahead and start working on broadcasting. Now, of course, in order to get broadcasting, you also have to get magic alloying, and we'll talk about that in another video, probably the next video actually. But once you have broadcasting, you can go ahead and create these repeaters. Once you have the stuff before it anyway, you can go ahead and create repeaters. Now, crystal repeaters. These are the good ones, the ones that you want to use, the ones that you'll be using for your, most of your time, because they're the good ones. If we go into the book, I need to always remember to look at it in the book first, because that's a good place to look. So we'll go to the book, and we'll find them. They're a bit further over than the basic repeater, or the craft repeater. They're over here. They have their own section called Transmitting Energy. You can see here, Crystal Repeater. And we're only going to talk about, we'll see what we have time for to talk about here. So, your initial foray into transmitting the energy was a disaster. The wooden ones only marginally served their purpose, proving vulnerable to violent failure. Wood was a monumentally foolish material to choose. Perhaps the crystal you've used so much would be a better choice. And yes, it is a much better choice. So, the reception range on these is 32 with the same transmission range, 32, which makes them, quite simple. As long as you put these 32 blocks apart, they'll work. So, let's look at how to craft them. You're going to need a ton of these, so yeah, get used to crafting them. So, to get started, you need a crystal core. Alright, we talked about that in a previous episode, making the crystal groups and then getting the crystal core. So, you should already know how to do that. If you don't know how to do that, watch the episode I made on groups. So, we'll just go in here. We'll grab the crystal core. Alright, so the crystal core, that goes in the center. Boop. And then, we're going to need a bunch of other stuff to go around it. If we go over twice, we can see that the outside has to be covered in transmissive dust, whereas the inside sides have to have boosted Tahara crystal shards, easy enough to get. But then the top and bottom need something called luminite. And you're like, what the heck is luminite? We haven't talked about that yet. That's true. Luminite is actually an ore. So if we go into the World Gen section of the ChromatiCraft in creative mode, we can scroll down and we can find luminite. So this is an ore from ChromatiCraft, luminite ore, and I have a piece of it. And so what you do is you have to go mining and find this stuff, and I can't actually place it. Oh, I could place it on grass. I tried earlier and it didn't work. But anyway, you got luminite. You'll find it underground, I assume. I'm not exactly sure if you have to go somewhere specific. Do you have to find a luminous cliff in order to get this? I don't think so. But anyway, when you find this luminite ore, you can mine it. So if I go into survival mode, I can mine this with my pickaxe. And you mine it, you get experience, and you also get luminite, which is nice and useful. So, because we need that. So once you get yourself 2 luminite, you'll be able to craft 16 repeaters, which may or may not be enough for you to get 1 pylon connected, depending on how far away it is. I don't know, man. Getting every single pylon color connected to your casting temple, it's going to take some work. It's going to take a lot of crafting, because let's see, we have this one right here, but the next closest one is over here. So we did, wait, is it the same? No, it's the same color. So we didn't luck out, because having 2 of the same color, you could easily connect this as well. You'd have 2 pylons giving you the green, which might be a good thing, because once you get to the super high level, you might not have enough power output from one. But we have to go over here to get our next closest pylon. We got a Zambaro one over here. And that's going to take, I don't know how many repeaters that'll take, but I think that's going to take at least 4 or 5 repeaters. If I'm if I'm estimating the distance right, at least 4 or 5. Because you're going to have to go from the pylon, you're going to have to count out 48. you're going to have to go maybe over in this direction. You're going to have to go over here, because you remember that the beams are blocked by anything. Any blocks that get in the way, except for glass, I think. And there's another pylon over here. This one's going to take even longer to get, because this is way far away. And it's just going to keep going like that. So that looks like an orange one. Is that Portacali? It makes sense to be. Yeah, I think it's... Nope, that's a red one. Yep, it's a red one. So you're going to have to range out quite far to find all of them. Now, in order to get this progression far enough, you would have had to find one of each. So yeah, when you were out there looking and finding one of each, I highly recommend that you put waypoints down on those so you could find them again, and use the crystal compass to find one of each, and then you'll have to tie them into your crystal network by using repeaters, and you're going to need to make a lot of them, so you better find a lot of luminite. Okay, speaking of which, let's go ahead and place our luminite. It goes there and there. Now, we need to place an awful lot of this transmissive dust. I don't need glowstone. Why do I have glowstone? I need transmissive dust. We'll go into items. We'll grab the transmissive dust. If you remember, we used transmissive dust for the other one, but we used very little of it. So, transmissive dust. Now we got to place it all the way around here. Now we could just go ahead and place them all individually, but we can actually, apparently, if we hold shift and right click with an empty hand on these casting stands, we may be able to just place it all at once. Which, if you're going to mass produce these, might be a good idea. Let's see if this works. Come on. Oh, good lord. Okay, so it did work. So what that did was, it took my stack that I had of the transmissive dust, and when I right-clicked, it spread it out to all of the slots with a very loud effect. So if we go into our casting table, we can see we now have 4 in each, which means we could, if we had more of this luminite, we could cast this 4 different times for a full stack. Because, 16 times 4 and all. Which would be quite nice. Anyway, we need some boosted Tahara shards, so now that I've recovered from that, we'll go ahead and, we can do the same thing, obviously, if I hold shift and I right-click on these. Do-do-do, and then I do the same. There we go, and it spreads it out for me. Now we've got our boosted Tahara shards, and I'm pretty sure that's all we need except for runes. So let me go ahead and R on this. Yep, that's all we need. We just need to place the runes. There's a lot of runes. If you remember, the Tahara ones, and 2 of the Tahara ones, and 2 of the Kuro ones, we already placed for the other Lumen ones, Lumen Repeater, but we got to place more of them in the other corners and the other edges, and then we got to place some of these, the red ones, the green ones, the yellow ones, and the blue ones. So let's go ahead and grab that. So the blue one, the green one, we need the black one, and do we need the yellow one? Yeah, we need the yellow one too. Okay, so white, green, red, black, yellow, and blue. Taharas go in all the corners, so we'll place them in these 2 corners, and then Kuros, which we have to place at the bottom and the top, just like we did the left and the right before. And then we need to place Nilla under the upper right Tahara and above the lower left Tahara. So Nilla goes here, and Nilla also goes here. If you notice, the pattern is symmetrical, and obviously that's purposeful. Then we place the Catrino here. I mean, the whole deal with this type of repeater is that it's more balanced, therefore it's more stable and won't explode. And then we place the green Kajani right there, and the red Karma right there. So then when we go down here, Karma goes over here above it, and Kajani goes to the left. And now that should be good. Yep, well, we can now craft crystal repeaters. It's only going to craft it once because we only have one of them in most of these slots. But we could craft it up to 4 times if we had a little 4 over each thing, because we've spread out a whole stack of transmissive dust on our outer ring. And it's done. So far, that's actually the longest crafting time that anything has taken, I think, in the series so far. So now we have 16 crystal repeaters. But of course, we can't just go ahead and place them on the floor. They don't work that way. We have to build the repeater structure. For that, you're going to need crystalline stone, and you're going to need the rune that matches the color of the pylon that you're currently using. So since we've got Kajani over here, we're going to need the matching Kajani rune, which we have right here. So the way that you build it, quite simple. 2 crystalline stone, place the rune down, and then pop the repeater on top. And it's going to do the same thing with the lines. If we look at the pylon, we can see that the pylon will obviously connect to this repeater. This repeater is way closer than it needs to be, because remember, the pylon's broadcast range is 48, although the repeater's receiving range is like 32. So what does that mean? Does that mean that this needs to be 32 blocks away from the pylon? That's what it used to be. I don't know if it's been changed. At any rate, if I want to make sure this connects, I can count 32 blocks, but we don't have to, because we can just we can look at it, and then we can use the dotted line. So the dotted line will show us how far away we can be before it'll quit working. And dotted lines, and hey, we can go all the way over here. And we could probably go even farther. But at any rate, we can go and pop one here. And if we look, it's being connected. And actually, there we go. Our remember, when the last time we tried to pour any power into this thing, the Lumen relays exploded. However, now it works. And we got Kajani power in there. And it works because these ones don't explode. Right? So these will happily transmit your power over the longest of distances. Now, it is important to note that, like with any repeater in the real world, including these repeaters, have some small amount of attenuation, and that means that every time the energy, the power has to bounce between a repeater, it loses a little bit of power. So if we go in over here and we go to it and we look at it. Well, I don't think it mentions it here. I think it mentioned it over here. Over here. Repeaters incur a small signal attenuation. Optimizing the path is a good idea. I believe that the wooden ones have a much higher attenuation than the crystal repeaters. These things are nice. We've covered now the fact that you need to blow up at least one of the wooden ones in order to get the progression needed to get these crystal ones. However, for the crystal ones, there's different kind of pile of repeater, can only carry one color of energy. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode about Lumen Repeaters. We covered the very basic Lumen Repeater, the wooden one, the one that has a tendency to explode. And we covered the standard crystal repeaters, the ones that you'll be using the most of. In the next episode, maybe we'll go over alloying, but in the very near future, we'll also cover the multi-aura repeater. So I'll place this back down and see the beams again. Come on, beams. Oh, it's still got the power. Wait, what? I broke it and replaced it. How does it still have power? Oh, it must be sort of universal. I don't know. Anyway, we'll go over multi-aura repeaters later. They're very, very useful, but they are a bit more in-depth, and we have to go over a couple of other things that we'll have to craft in order to get to them, so this video would be too long if we did that. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for future episodes. In case you're interested, my brother got married yesterday. Today I'm recording this on Thursday morning. My brother got married on Wednesday, and so I didn't have a lot of free time this week, but it was really nice. Everything went well, and it was great. So thank you guys so much for watching. Like and comment the video down below if you did enjoy it. I'm SentinalH, and I'm signing out.